I thought I was set up again. How are you today? I'm going to stop there, or I'll be spending the next goodness knows how long. Okay, so how are you? Have you slept? Have you eaten? Are you well? Bear with me for a moment if you could. I just realised I didn't have my earbuds in, and I think having them in cuts out a bit of the road noise. I'm leaning over a bit far here. That might be a bit better. So, don't have a lot today to show you. This is a little bit of a mess because I had a doctor's appointment today and I was doing some stitching in the waiting room. And when she came out to get me, I just jumped up and put everything in. But I wanted to show you a couple of things. I think I'm finished the cupcake inspired, the Pincushion, the Kate in the Nest inspired one. So I've added some colour to it. These are supposed to be leaves. I'm not overly happy with them. I mean, I like how they've come out, but I think they look a little bit dicky, so it looks like the top of a strawberry or a cherry or something. And then I thought I could put more, maybe put some more here or down here, but is that going to look worse? I'm not sure what to do. So that's if you remember, started off with some wool blanketing, and then I stuffed it with these bits of wool that I chopped up from the blankets. And then I attached a crocheted medallion to it. And then I decided I wanted some colour on the medallion, so I've done a bit of yellow, some pink and some purple. I'm still tossing up whether to do some yellow in each of these bits here. I think if I keep going I'm going to go too far. And then I've done these little needle woven picots to do some green leaves. They look a bit blue through the monitor. I suppose that's what you'd be seeing. They're not that blue. They're more green than blue. I tossed up whether to just do some bits of green stitch in here. Oh, it's raining again, that's why the light's not... I think I've finished that Pincushion. That's my... I'm sorry it won't focus. My phone is so worn out. That's my Kate in the Nest inspired, what Kate was calling a cupcake Pincushion. So I think I've finished it. I wanted to show you, I called in to visit my friend again today, and each time I go there, nearly every time she's got something else for me. So I got these pieces of fabric. To me this looks a bit like some bits of the old Sheraton sheeting. There used to be a Sheraton outlet near here when I was at school, and we used to buy things like this. I mean, this actually looks like it's been taken off a ruffle because you can see it was pleated there and it's been unpicked. But we used to buy things about this width that always had this overlocked edge on it, and we used to buy them in a roll. So there was metres and metres of it in a roll. This has got some age spots on it. Don't know if they'll wash out. But there's some sort of vintage fabric. I'm still struggling to call these fabrics vintage, to be honest. This one doesn't have that overlocking on the bottom, but that's okay. There were a few other pieces there in the same, but I thought, there's only so much you can use, isn't there? I did think I could buy it and share it, but at the moment I just can't afford to pay for postage to send things to people, unfortunately. Then I got this piece. Don't know about this piece again. This is, some people would classify as vintage. To me, vintage is, at the moment for me, my vintage is 1970 or earlier. When I looked up the definition of vintage fabric, it said from the year 2000 or earlier. To me, that's not vintage. This isn't that old. It could be 80s, but I don't know. It's a bit see-through. It's cotton, so I'm not sure if I'll use that one, but I thought it was a pretty little vintage style floral. And then this one. This has got a few stains though, so I don't know. The inside looks okay. It might wash up okay. There's quite a bit there. And this is similar to that last one. It's got that self-patterned check, and it's a bit more see-through. It's not a gauze or anything, it's a cotton, but yeah, probably for a little summer dress or something. So yeah, not sure about that one, but then I got these 2 napkins, and they're not what I thought they were. Oh, they are actually. And I thought that was a synthetic, but it's not, it's cotton. So I got these 2 napkins, which are actually, now that I open them out, they're better than I thought they were. Can you imagine that in one of those needle books? It's not bad, is it? Look at that edge. It's all crocheted, hand crocheted. If I try and straighten that out, that's quite a spectacular edge, isn't it, really? So got those 2. They're better than I thought they were. But when I got it out earlier, I thought, oh, why did I get those? They're just synthetic acrylic. They're not, they're all cotton. So that was okay. I'll try and get it back in here so it's protected. Then I got another one of these. I got one of these the other week when I was there, and they're hand embroidered. There's little bullion knots to make the roses. There's bullion knots in bullion knots. And then there's little buds there, and so that was cute little. Then I found this piece of fabric. I've tried to do a reverse image search on this. I picked it up and I thought, oh, that's not bad. It's not tapestry, but it's not cotton. I didn't have a good look. It reminded me of a more modern, like an 80s, 90s tapestry sort of fabric. But when I opened it up and had a good look, it's much better quality. When I've done a reverse image search, it actually tells me it's a linen, but I don't think it is. Could have linen in it, especially looking at this bias, this selvage. Could have linen in it. It's woven. It's a woven fabric. It's not heavy. It's actually telling me, the other thing the image search is telling me is that it's a Georgian upholstery fabric. Now, this is not that old. Even like the late Georgian era is like the 1830s or something. It's not that old. It could be a reproduction Georgian, but it's not new either, I don't believe. It's got some age marks. It's a beautiful, beautiful quality fabric. The other thing that came up was some French fabrics, so it could be, I've just not seen anything quite like it before. It's heavy, but it's not heavy. I know that sounds stupid, doesn't it? How can I explain it? It's a woven fabric, clearly. It's not as heavy as a cotton canvas, but it's heavier than a cotton quilting fabric. If anyone knows what it is, please let me know in the comments, because yeah, I've just never seen anything quite like it. It just seems like a really good, it's for the size of it, it's got weight in it. It's a lovely feeling fabric. It does almost feel like a linen in weight, as far as weight goes. It feels like a nice linen. I also got another packet of these. I think I got a blue packet last week. I look at these sometimes and I think they're not that old, and then other times I look at them and think they could be 30s, 40s, 50s era. They are a bit brittle. I've noticed some of the shafts have snapped off. So they're little rosebud buttons. The blue ones I got the other day were little diamante shape. I also got these. These are like 20s, 30s buttons. Yellow ones. And then I got it. Now I've been calling these Duchess sets. This one says it's called a Cheval set. I didn't even think of calling it a Cheval set. So this one here has been started. Whether I can match that green though to one I've got, I don't know. I haven't had a look yet. And the other thing with this one doesn't feel like linen. It looks like linen. And if it is a linen, it's a blend. It feels a little bit synthetic. It feels like, remember those, I can't remember what that fabric was called. In the 80s, our school trousers, if they weren't made of wool, most of the time they were wool, so wool suiting, but it feels a bit like that. And I can't see on here anywhere where it says what it is. Usually, well, not always, usually if they're linen it says it has linen printed on it. I can't see on here anywhere what the fabric is, but anyway, I've got that one that I'd like to finish off. Then I found this one. This one's been started and then it's been unpicked, because you can see on the back here where it's been unpicked. Now I quite like this, the roses, and again, this is not something I would have previously gone for until I started watching people making these, like Kate in the Nest and Beck from Sobe and the Roxy sisters, and there's quite a few others. I'm sorry if I've missed you that I've been watching, but doing the Roxy sisters stitch alongs and that, they're using all these florals and cross stitches which I would never have previously thought of. But I'd really like to finish this one. I would, however, like to try and find some instructions on how to do these colours in here, because I imagine this would not have just been red or pink. It would have been some gradiated colours, and I can't think of how to do that. So I'd like to see something. I'm sure I could probably Google some. This one is pure linen, of course. Lovely. These are always lovely linens. And then I got this one. This was also in the unfinished box. It has been beautifully stitched, but I don't think they've used a hoop. If they have used a hoop, they've washed it, and this cotton has shrunk. So I'm hoping with a good press, look at the back, it's almost as good as the front. So that one's been completed except for the crochet edge. Another pure linen, of course. And I haven't seen one before, not that it's uncommon or anything, but I haven't seen one before with this royal blue in it, so that's a cute one. And then the other day I was watching, I think it was Kate in the Nest, and she had something with native animals and flowers on it, or just flowers, I can't remember now. And I thought, oh, I'd love to get some linen with native animals on it. This little number was in, I just loved it, had to have it. This little number was in the unfinished box. It hasn't been started, and it's got koalas on it. Look at that. It's beautiful. Koalas and gum blossoms. So I'd really like to do this one. Of course, that's pure linen again. It's a My Art one, that one. The other couple of the others are Semco. It's got the instructions and the colour suggestions on it. So yes, I was quite happy with that one. I'd be a little tempted though, don't know if I will, but on here the blossoms are red, orangey red. I'd be a little bit tempted to do them in a pink. I like pink. But anyway, and I think the pink and grey would look good together too. So I got that one. It does have a little bit of rust mark on it, a little bit of staining, but it is lovely. And something else I got was this tapestry that I was hoping I might be able to use in something. It's all finished. Someone's spent all the trouble of stitching it. Yeah, that one. So that's a bit of a heavy one, that one. A couple of the others I've bought previously that I've packed away somewhere weren't as heavy as that. So that was today's little unexpected vintage haul, or unplanned vintage haul. I think I've finished my little pincushion. I'm actually tossing up whether to add like a hanging, I don't know what to do with that one. I did try to start some little 8mm hexies today at the doctor's, but this is one. This fabric is too thick. You can hopefully you can see, it's not focusing very well for me, but this fabric's too thick, so I'm not getting nice sharp points with that. And this was some of that vintage nightgown fabric of my grandmother's. I tried this fabric. This is a piece of a check from So Be out of a scrap bag, little quilting cotton. That one's not too bad. They're quite sharp corners. They could be better. And I also tried, I should have had it out ready for you, so I'm sorry. I tried to do a bit of linen with some cross stitch on it. I can't find that now. And it was just way too chunky for that sized hexagon. It was not happy at all. I couldn't get sharp corners. It's quite bulky. So I don't know whether this is a piece of it anyway. This is what my grandmother used to use to make nightgowns and baby gowns. I can't remember what it's called. It's beautiful fabric. It almost feels like wool. It could be wool, because she used to have a lot of really fine wool suiting. So I don't know whether to use my scrap bag, which has some Liberty in it, not much. This is the only Liberty I own. So just these tiny little bits, not that there's much in there. Here's a piece, I believe. And maybe that piece. They're the only bits of Liberty I've ever owned. And I'm at the moment treating them like precious little items. I can't find that other one. That's a pain in the bum. So once again, I've been trying for days to get a needlebook started and thinking maybe I'll do a long pincushion like Kate's done as well. Oh, here it is. Here's the linen one that I tried to do. So, I mean, it's there. These points aren't too bad, but see, this one's not sharp. They're not the great points, and I had to lace the back of it just to pull it all in, because it's just too chunky for that size. So, see they're not even sitting flat on the table, it's that chunky. So as I mentioned the other day, I keep tossing up what I'm going to do with this and how I'm going to start. I think I keep coming back to this piece for a needle book. It has quite a bit of staining over here, which I don't know whether I need to cover or not. Obviously it is a piece of vintage cutter quilt, but what I was thinking with this one, and yes, I am still working on my stitch along piece. I should be doing some more of that with you, shouldn't I? That's still in the works. What have I done with it? I must have left that inside, so I won't be moving ahead with that now. I did cut out a piece of embroidered linen that I was going to stitch onto here. And originally I was going to stitch it here to break up this green to balance it a bit more, but now that I'm noticing there's staining a lot more today, I'm wondering if I need to put something on there. I mean, it's age marks, it's not, and it came from Beck, so I know she's washed it. I know it's been cleaned and soaked, and that's how it is. So maybe it's time to go back to this piece. And all I'm up to with this one, this is the vintage textile stitch along I've been doing with you guys. This is the one that I'm hoping I will turn into a zippered pouch. And all I'm up to is doing some running stitch down here. And with this piece, I'm trying to follow, well, this next line, I'll be following that woven line there, the fabric line. And oh, that's interesting, it's washed off. I did have a pen mark on there. So I'm just doing a little running stitch along here. I'm going, that's just a tacking stitch to hold that fabric in place. I could probably cut that out now that I'm stitching on it. This is my project bag at the moment that I'm using, but it's not exactly the most practical project bag. I need to work it out a bit better. I bought it like that, so okay. I'm just cutting this tacking stitch so I can pull this out of the way, and I cut it on the wrong side, you bullfed. Okay, that'll work. And you may notice, you may not, but I'm not doing a traditional running stitch or cantha stitch, because if I do it like this, where you just keep moving, working the needle through the fabric, I don't like the way the stitch looks. You can see here, oh, you may not be able to see it because it's a bit washed out. I started it here and I just end up with these chunky stitches. I don't like that look, so I just do one at a time. I like a more delicate a more delicate look. Now up here, this is what I was trying to explain. I only want to bring this up to that. I've needle turned that linen underneath, and I only want to bring this up to there. Probably should trim that because I want that stitch to go over that edge to hold it in place. Don't want to cut too much off yet because it moves as I'm stitching it, and if I cut it all the way along there, by the time I get up here further, it will have shifted, pulled down a little bit with the stitching, and I'll have a bit of a gap, and I don't want a gap. Even if I cut it a little fraction longer, I can sort of tuck it. I'm just going to cut a little bit off for now. I just cut a little bit back to here so it doesn't gather. I hope that makes sense. I know what I'm talking about in my head, but whether I'm actually translating that to making sense, I'm not sure. Okay, so this last stitch I can stitch over that edge and slightly under that needle turned linen because I've done everything backwards, and instead of doing this first and then laying that on top, I'm just trying to tuck it under a little bit. So now I'm trying to come out from under that so I can tuck that next stitch on to return in the opposite direction. Now the next thing is, for some reason I've put my fabric marking pen somewhere and I can't find it. So what I get a bit fastidious with this, I suppose. So I like to have one stitch line on these lines, and then I like to have one in the middle this wide, and then one in the middle of that again. So I normally draw it up and draw a line so I don't get too wonky, but I'm going to try and just do it by eye. Now see, for me, my stitches are getting a little bit too big now. The other thing I try and do, a lot of these fabrics are woven fabrics, they're not printed. So this is a woven fabric. And if I put my glasses on, they're not going to help me, are they? They're on my head. I've got the wrong glasses out here. If I put my glasses on, I can also sometimes follow the weave of the fabric to help keep my stitching straight. Just giving that a slight tug because one of those threads had a little loop in it. I drove into Newcastle today. I had to drop my mother off at the hospital and wait for her to finish there, and that cotton's getting caught. And while I was waiting, I thought I'd take Willow up to the dog beach for a bit of a romp. But the road from the path I took from the hospital to the beach, things have changed so much. There's so many new buildings, the roads have changed slightly. Even, I usually noticed if trees have been removed. So I might not know what kind of tree, but I'll be driving along and I think there's something's missing, something doesn't feel right, there's a big hole, and that's when I realise there's a tree being taken down. So I noticed some of those today, and there was a lot of new construction sites on the road going in. There was a lot of, big trucks and things moving around on going into construction sites. There were a lot of areas where the roads were half closed or marked off, and I actually found it quite overwhelming, and there's just so much has changed. I had to pull over a couple of times to try and get my bearings. How bad is that? I used to know the place like the back of my hand. But I don't go in there that often anymore. I didn't have my GPS or anything on, so it was certainly an interesting experience. And I pulled over twice, two times, three times, twice, to get my bearings and work out which way to go, and to look for somewhere to get some lunch. And by the time I got to Steele Street, Mum was ready to be picked up, so we didn't even get to the beach. But that was okay. I must have fiddled around quite a bit. And just pulling those tacking stitches out of the way as I'm going. So I'm not sure if I've shown you, I think I did. Since we last worked on this, I have got a bit more done. I finished off the running stitch around here. I needle turned this piece of linen. I've stitched these crochet pieces down, and normally when I've done things like this before, applied crochet medallions or something, I'd use the same crochet cotton or a finer one to try and hide those stitches. But after seeing what other people have been doing, they've been using a big contrast stitching for a bit of a pop. So I decided I'd try that. So I've used neon pink on this one, and I originally just did some holding stitches, and then I've gone back over it to try and balance it out and even it up a bit. So I've put some details in here. And then with this one, this pink one, that was a smaller medallion obviously. Again, I just did some holding stitches and I didn't like the look of it, so I've come back in and done overcast stitch around to make it look like it was deliberate. And then with this vintage Suffolk puff, I did holding stitches, and then I've done in between those two again, and then I've gone around a third time and gone in between all those again. And then I thought it looked a little bit unbalanced, so I've done some colonial knots in the middle, and that's neon green, if I didn't mention that earlier. I've also done more weave stitch around here, and I've done this flower here. This is just basically just a spider's web flower, and I experimented with some stitch direction up here, which I don't mind. Again, there's a bit of neon orange thrown in there, so I've got neon orange, neon pink, neon green. There's no neon on this side yet, and I've got a bit of neon down here. I finished needle turning this piece. I've done a bit of, I started with colonial knots in here just to give it some different texture. Colonial knots, moved into French knots. Then I did some long and short stitch and then some seed stitch here. Not sure, I'm just trying, what I'm aware of too, I started doing this weave stitch around this embroidered linen to try and get it to pop the flower and the leaves here. But then I realised if I do weave stitch all the way around it, it's going to look a bit funny in this area. So I did this, the colonial knots, French knots, seed stitch, long and short stitch in here to try and blend it out a bit. Not sure if I like that. I'm not overly keen on the colour, but it does sort of balance the rest of it a little bit. I'm still not sure how I'm going to handle this. Part of me still feels like I want to do the weave stitch all the way around this piece of linen. And then if I do that, I feel like I'm going to have to layer a few things on it to break it down a bit. The other thing I'm struggling with a little bit is this printed linen here with these flowers on it. Goes up to here. I don't know if you can see on the monitor, but I've got quite a few large tacking stitches holding that in place. I never planned on keeping those stitches there, but some of them have been stitched over. Obviously the stitched over ones I'm not going to remove if you can't see them, but I don't know how to finish off these edges. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Again, part of me feels like I need to do weave stitch, but then I'm going to cover the whole background with weave stitch the rate I'm going, and that's not what I had planned to do. Maybe I could put some of these little hexies. I don't know, I'm not overly keen on them in there. Maybe that might work. Don't know. The vintage Suffolk puffs I've got are too big. I'm not fussed on them. I could potentially cut out more embroidered linen, but I don't really have any small enough bits, I don't think. And I don't like cutting through. I've seen some people cut through pieces that have been stitched. I just can't come at that. My eyes are just darting around to see if there's anything else I've got. I guess I could do some different embroidery stitches around, embroidered flowers or bits and bobs. Not sure if I'm sure I have mentioned, I've been watching Kate in the Nest, and I'm absolutely fascinated by her process. She appears to be so confident and excited in what she's doing, and it just completely fascinates me. She just stitches and chops and applies, and it's fabulous to watch. It's absolutely fabulous. And she doesn't appear to be at all afraid to just cut through linen. I've got some lovely embroidered linens, and I'm struggling to cut through any that weren't already damaged. So most of the ones that I'm cutting have either already been cut. Hello again, how are you? Most of the ones that I've already used have either already been cut by someone else, or they've been that badly damaged. So I'm really struggling to harvest from some of the other linens. I'm going to have to, because if I don't, I'll never get anywhere. And again, I'm just back to this piece that I'm trimming up to that needle turned linen, so I can do that edge. Just wanted to get that bit down. That's going to be a big stitch in there though. I keep going to one of my earbuds feels a bit itchy at the moment, and I keep going to scratch my ear, but if I touch that earbud I often hang up or end the session or something silly that I don't want to do. And it probably isn't itchy, I'm just overthinking it because there's something in my ear. I've been thinking of other stitches I can do, and the other thing I was thinking of drawing some, I've just dunked that flower in there really. Should I sort of draw some tendrils or leaves and embroider them But if I do that, I'm thinking out loud now. I still keep coming back to this weave stitch around here, to be honest. I don't know if you can see on the monitor either. I've done so many different sections of weave stitch. There's a block in here. There's another block under here. Then there's another block under here. That's a big block, that one. And you might be able to see the stripes in it. That's where I've decided to use different coloured threads to make it look a bit like a, what's that word? Tartan, I suppose. A tartan, a wool rug. Got another block in there, and then behind that there's another block in a different direction again. There's another block in here that comes all the way down under this. I'm trying to establish how far. Oh, that block ends there. So that's a block under there from that pale colour. Then I've done another block from there to there. Then I've done a funny little triangle shaped block in there. Then I've got a funny block that comes around there, and then another block up there, another block there, and another block there. And I think you can see on the monitor, you can see the different colours and they go in different directions. And I quite like how that looks. But then, as I was saying earlier, it feels very blocky. And see, I'm tempted to do at least around this linen in weave stitch. But then in here, I feel like I need to bring it across under here. And then if I do it around here, how far up do I go? Do I go around this flower, or do I just do it around that edge of linen there to hold it in? It's a bit, I'm just so indecisive, I think. As I said, I'm worried if I keep doing this weave stitch, it's just going to be really blocky, and then I'm just going to have this big block of dark colour. And then what do I do in here? Do I fill all this white in with the weave stitch as well? That's not what I was planning on doing. I wasn't going to do all weave stitch. So I think I need to either, you know, maybe add some of these little hexagons to fill in some spaces, or come up with some different stitches. Or this might actually work if I use different fabrics in here. I could potentially do an arrangement of hexagons in different areas around here potentially. Yeah. I guess I could stitch some crochet pieces in, but then, as I mentioned earlier, as with the linen, I really struggle to cut the crochet pieces when I've thank you very much. When I've cut this medallion out, for example, this was an unfinished crocheted doily. So there was three, and then 2, and it wasn't finished, and the medallions in between weren't finished. And I don't have the same thread, so I cut the 2 odd ones off. But when I did that, where they were joined, I ever so carefully cut it and then undid the joining crochet and then tied them off in a knot, which was very difficult because in some cases I only had that much cotton to work with. I just don't like cutting them and having them fall apart, I suppose. So yes, this is where we're up to with the vintage collage stitch along. If you are joining in, I mean, this is pretty much inspired by Kate of Kate in the Nest and Beck of So Be Curated. They're the ones that originally inspired me to start something like this. And I believe they were inspired by the Roxy sisters and their stitchers. What were they calling them? Oh goodness, I can't remember what they're called, I'm sorry. Journal of Stitchery, possibly. So I know I've been saying this for maybe a week, but I'm hoping tonight to sit down and get a bit more of this done, work out how I can fill in some of those holes so I can come back and show you some ideas. And I'd also like to get started on another project as well. Potentially a needle book. I've been procrastinating over a needle book since I first bought the needle kits from Beck about 4 weeks ago. Now, can you hear in the background that squeaking noise? That's my dog playing with her screaming chicken. As she's telling me, she's pressing her buttons now. I can't hear what she's saying. I heard soon. I'd say she's hungry because she hasn't been fed yet because we went in the car. I don't like to feed her before we go in the car because she gets an upset tummy. So I think she's telling me it's time for her meal. I'm waiting for her to start singing for us. Yesterday or the day before, she sang a lovely song for us. Don't know what you're seeing through that monitor, but I'm starting to struggle to see what I'm doing. It's getting dark. Here goes Screaming Chicken. Is she going to serenade us? No, we're going to yawn. Mum, you're not paying attention to me. Where's that one gone? Don't know where the other end of that pink one is. It's disappeared. I don't know. Oh, that one's over there. Okay. Don't want that much to come out yet. Oops, pulled that too tight. I can hear you. I know. Soon, baby. Soon. You've been a good girl. I tell you what. Sometimes she's like having a toddler at home again. She tells me when she's hungry. She tells me when she wants to go to the toilet. And sometimes she's got no concept of, I'm in the middle of something, can you give me a minute? She is learning soon, but I think she thinks soon is another word for outside. Goodbye. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. Yeah, she's got no concept of soon, I don't think, because she went through a stage where she'd press the outside button or the hungry button and I'd say, soon, it's coming. So if she presses outside and I don't jump to her attention immediately, she then presses soon, soon. Okay, surely I can at least get that bit finished tonight. I'm going to bring this to the other side so I don't lose it. I'm not sure if there's much more. I mean, I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here endlessly and watch me stitching that. I'm not sure if there's much more I can show you. Don't forget, if you might happen to know what this fabric is. I mean, not that it matters. It really, in the whole scheme of things, it doesn't matter. I just like to know what they are sometimes. I've been learning a lot about newer to me fabrics recently. But if anyone might know what this is, this beautiful woven fabric, if you may know what it is, let me know. It's just beautiful. I'm assuming it could potentially be an upholstery fabric, but it's not that heavy. Not like we have now anyway. I think that's it, guys. I think that's as much as I can show today. And I know I've been saying it for a while, but hopefully next time I'll be more organised. I'm actually feeling... Excuse me, here comes the hiccups again. Every time I get on here, I tend to get the hiccups. I've been complaining nearly every time about how fatigued I am and how sore I am while I've been doing my therapy, my hydrotherapy. Today's the best day I've felt for a while, for quite a while, since I've started, to be honest. I'm hoping that's a good sign. I'm hoping that I'm finally starting to turn that corner. I'm really fatigued still, and I'm feeling a bit heady, like I might be coming down with a bit of a head cold or hay fever or something, but apart from that, I have some energy today. I'm not that ridiculously fatigued that I'm falling over and doing silly things and dropping my coffee and things like that. I'm feeling strong today as well. So I was telling my doctor, I have two regular doctors now. I have one doctor that I've been seeing for over 20 years, and because he now does rotations and things, he works at a few different surgeries now. I don't always get to see him because I need to go every 4 weeks on the dot. So I don't always align with when he's available now because he does 3-week rotations. So I now have another regular doctor who I've been seeing on and off for a couple of years as well. And she's such a lovely lady. The first few years I met her, I think it was probably 9 or 10 years ago when I first met her, and she was so standoffish. She didn't speak, sort of, even when I had appointments with her, that was it. Come in, have your appointment, okay, time to go, that was it. No talking, no No, nothing really. But now that we're getting to know each other better, she has me in stitches sometimes. Today, I was laughing so hard. She was telling me, because I was explaining it, like the therapist, the physiotherapist, and the other doctors at the hospital and at rehab wanted me to talk to her about the fatigue. And we did discover today that one of the reasons I'm so fatigued is because my vitamin D is almost non-existent at the moment. So anyway, I was telling her about the trouble I've been having with the fatigue and the pain and whatnot. And she was telling me, she said, you know, she said, I stopped exercising a while ago, and she said, and I'm so bad. She said, I was walking up the stairs, I was talking on the phone, I was walking up the stairs the other day, and the people on the other end of the phone are saying, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you okay? What's happening? She said, I'm just walking up the bloody stairs. She said, I'm so puffed out. But, I mean, you know, it was the way she was telling me. She's got a very deep accent, and she kept saying bloody, and the way it came across, it was, we're both almost rolling on the floor laughing. I'm saying to her, the way you were telling me this, it is so funny. And she said, and the way you're laughing at me, it's so funny. So we just kept playing off each other, and it just got funnier and funnier. And I said to her, we have to stop. It hurts my stomach muscles. It's hurting my face. But anyway, it was good. We had a really good laugh today. And she's often now, when I do finally get to catch up with her, she's often trying to make me laugh, which is good. Yeah, it's good for a change. But anyway, that was my little story of the day. As I said, I don't think there's much else I can tell you today. Pretty sure I'm finished this little pincushion. I do have a handful more cut out, maybe 5 more cut out. Some of them are larger. So I'd like to try and get those done. Got so many grand ideas. Who else is like that? Who's going to make this and make that and do that and do this and do that and then never gets around to it? I'm good at doing that. So anyway, thanks again for joining me. Once again, I hope you may have learned something or have been inspired to give something a go or something. Outside, yes, sweetheart, I'm coming soon. In a minute. I'm just finishing up and I'll come, okay? Soon, darling. So thank you again for joining me. I hope you've learned something, or I hope you've been inspired by something. I hope you might go and look for some linens or fabrics that you might be able to create with if you haven't already. We didn't do much today, but I hope you might have got something out of it. So I hope you're having a great day, morning, evening, wherever you are. I hope you are well, and I hope you are safe. Stay safe and be kind to one another. And I'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining me.